Hi, just wanted to do another video, just playing around with the new Rigol 5000 series scope and just maybe comparing it to some other scopes, doing some serial decoding and just playing around with some of the features of it. And I've found, right off the bat here, I was just playing around with some SPI decoding and I don't know what's going on here. I really don't. I'm in just standard 2-channel mode. I'm feeding in 2 signals here, and you might think there's no signal there. They're both grounded, channel 1 and channel 2. I've got my trigger point right in the middle here, and it might actually come good while I'm actually saying this, but trust me, it's refreshing. It's refreshing, and it's not, there it is. I swear I didn't touch it. These signals, I'm feeding in an SPI signal and they just magically appear. Look, if I press run, stop, look, they're gone, right? Like I'm in, like you can't see it because like I've got my studio lights installed, my old ones anyway, get me up and running. But yeah, it's in run mode and I can do single shot. Single shot's fine. Single shot will capture it every time. My trigger point is smack in the middle of that data. And it just cannot, it's 20 meg points at 2 gig samples a second, and it just runs stop mode. It's just nuts. It's almost as if there's no signal there, and the volts per division doesn't actually matter. Look, it's vanishing. They're vanishing. What is, I swear, it's just normal trigger, normal edge trigger, rise in, hold off, like what the hell is going on with this thing? I don't know, now it's come good, has it? It's going to make a fool out of me, but I cannot believe there's no signal there. I plug those same 2 signals into any other scope, it is fine. There's something up with this Rigol 5000 series. It's just strange. And if I plug that exact same channel 1 signal over to here on the Keysight 3000, there it is. Like you can see it coming up. It's like, you know, it's there it is, and I'm decoding the SPI. But look, you know, when I run that, I actually see a signal. I see a signal on that. There it is, right? It's infrequent. Maybe that, you know, that's probably the problem. It does not like, for some reason, it does not like long periods between trigger when you get to a certain, it's gone. Like, where is it? That's just nuts. Is it like some ridiculously slow update rate or something that it's hardly ever seen it? Doesn't feel like that. It feels like there's something else going on. So it's actually seems to be a strange function of the, because we're in auto mode, we're not in normal mode. If you switch it into normal mode, let's go in here, have a look, mode, normal, okay, it pops up and your data's fine, but if we put it in, a single shot's going to work of course, but we put it in that auto mode, and there we go, it's just, well, it might pop up occasionally, might not. So yeah, auto, I don't like it. Maybe it's just the particular frequency that I've got on this thing, but eh. And if we try it on the Keysight 3000, everything's hunky-dory. Doesn't matter what time base we set it to, like you'll eventually see something in auto mode there. And of course you put this one in normal and it's going to work fine and dandy too. But yeah, is it just a beat frequency thing with the auto refresh? I don't know. And even the venerable 1054Z here is going to show it up more frequently. So, and you're just whacking in normal mode and you're fine. Yeah, I know that's a usage thing. It's just like, it just got me. Like, I just thought it was weird. I thought like there's no signal on my screen at all. There was nothing. Couldn't see a thing. Yet any other scope I use, I at least see it periodically in auto mode. But yeah, anyway, more investigation required. And in the previous video I said this screen wasn't very bright, and after using it for a while, yeah, it is quite dim, and it's almost it's kind of like almost a bit depressing to use. Now I've set the same exposure here, and I'll show you different scopes. I'm not sure if this will show up on camera or not, but the Rohde & Schwarz is the winner. It has the biggest and brightest screen out of the bunch, much higher res too. This thing's sex on a stick, it's just beautiful. And even the old Rigol 1054Z has a, you know, a brighter screen on it. And yes, that screen is glary, but putting it side to side with the Rohde & Schwarz, the Rohde & Schwarz is probably glarier. It's like crisper, shows more detail. Love it. Should be in the spec sheet, you know, screen reflection, signal integrity. Anyway, I'm doing some SPI serial decoding here. So we go into the decoder. You've got 4 different decoders. We've got it set up for SPI. We've got mode, which is the timeout mode, which allows you to just have the clock and the MOSI data down here. So you've only got the 2 channels here. You can either have them coming from the analog or the digital source, no problems whatsoever. And you can specify your timeout there. So that's nice. Or if you have your chip select, of course, you can choose your chip select on the 3rd channel. So, but the good thing is you can do SPI decoding without chip select, without sacrificing one of your analog channels if you're using the analog channels. Say you're using the 16 digitals already for other digital stuff, you can do a serial decoder in addition to that. So I'll set that to timeout. You can set up your sources. So you can set your threshold here, for example, and it shows you your individual thresholds down here. Yes, I don't have the scaling set for my ×10 probe, so no worries on the threshold. Display, we can actually choose ASCII, hex, for example. We can go in there and it gives us our hex. I am not really a fan of having the D in here for data. I know it's data, but it's kind of annoying. If we go out, it's not going to show us. It did show us before, because it won't show hex. If we actually go in and ASCII, ta-da! Sorry, Rigol, but there's a Rohde & Schwarz advertisement in here because it just happens to have a pattern generator with SPI on it. Yeah, that's where I'm getting my signal source from, if you're wondering. Anyway, yeah, I don't like it showing the D in there. It's kind of like, you know, annoying. So if you zoom out like that, which of course we can see our both packets here, then, well, it's kind of like annoying to read. I'm not a fan of that. Anyway, can we actually drag that signal there? Yep, it doesn't actually drag with you, though, but it, you know, it's, oh, look, it stops decoding when you're doing the drag, of course. So, you know, it's not that responsive. I don't know if it's hardware or software decoding in the Rigol. I'll have to check up on that one. And we can set our ending, of course, most significant bit, least significant bit, no problems whatsoever. And of course, if we do our least significant bit, we're not going to be happy with that anymore. Hang on, our data seems to have vanished. Bueller, what did I do? I was just moving it around. It's not decoding the data anymore. What? Why? Have I screwed something up? I'm still in timeout mode. My sources are still set. So what? And of course we can set the position, but it stopped decoding. Why? It's updating. Like it's, you know, the data's actually updating there. Well, the signals are updating, sorry, but the data is not updating. It's going to show you the event table, but there's nothing damn well in it. Is this a PEBCAC? I'm just going to like disable decoding and simply enable it again. Where's our data gone? I don't get it. Is this a bug or is this a PEBCAC? And I tried setting up a second decoder here and no data either. Anyway, I want to show you this. If you try and position it further than that, you don't get anything. So I'm not sure whether or not, oh, yeah, you can't Actually, it's got nothing to do with channel 1. You can't actually go below that. Why? Why can't I put it right down the bottom of the screen? That's just nuts. Look, you can go up there, that's fine. Why does that limitation exist? Let's look at the same data on the Rode and Schwartz here. I'll just plug it in. We're getting nothing at the moment. It's detecting the clock, and bingo, pops up. Just love it how it's got all your frame information, and then it's just decoded down there for you, and then inside is very nice. I love that they put the secondary little clock and data there so that you don't have to view your actual signals up here if you don't want to. They're actually down there. That's a nice little touch. So rather than just give you the decode, they give you the signals as well. So that's pretty neat. Couldn't have the font in there, but there you go. And check this out. I just wanted to show you this. It's decoding data in real time. I better not touch it. Decoding data, and I can press my touch lock to get rid of it. Anyway, watch this. Like, look at the lag. Look at the lag on that data compared to the compared to the signal. That's just nuts. Anyway, it does work fine, and the decoder, let's go in and do our display, and we can do our event table, and event table on, and bingo, there it is, format. Once again, we can do that in ASCII. There it is. Now here's a little thing. Look, I can scroll that, but it doesn't stay scrolled. And I'm turning the cursor knob. Something's happening there, but it's kind of like resetting to the top. I cannot, like, I've got to stop it, then it'll do it. So it's like it re-triggers it every time. I guess like it's supposed to, maybe, but you can argue that that's not, well, it's kind of annoying. Like I need to sort of like, it'd nice be if I can just override that, but I guess you could argue either way is correct. Anyway, we can then go into details like this, although we've got nothing there, and then the payload is just the raw data like that in the 2 packets that we've actually decoded there. And yes, we can just move this around the screen, so menu off. There you go. Like we can't dock anything or anything fancy like that. The screen real estate, there's just not enough screen real estate to, you know, do something like that, but you can move it around. It's kind of jazzy. So that's at 100 kilobits. You'd expect it to decode that, no problems. 250 kilobits. See if it decodes that yet. Shorter, yep, no problems. Let's go up to 1 megabit, which is the highest that the Rode and Schwartz can do. Yeah, there we go. Does that. No wuckers. And as for UART data, handles it just fine, no problems whatsoever. This is 1 meg board, and the data is asterisk IDN question mark with a line feed at the end of it. You might recognize that. And there you go. It's got the stop bits. This is actually 8 data bits, 2 stop bits, and odd parity. And at 1 meg board, handles it fine. As I said, like it's a bit slow, but it's certainly not unusable, that's for sure. What's FS? Hang on, I just noticed that the data can get a bit screwy here. I was playing around with it. You might have seen it back then. I don't know what the deal was. But yeah, look, there we go. Our data's screwed up, you know? Our data's screwed up. It doesn't like that at all. We've got to go out. It's probably because it doesn't have the whole packet in memory. The whole thing in memory. Perhaps. But it's a bit odd. IDN. No, it works like that. We're in normal triggering mode. But you saw it. I was able to get some data that wasn't supposed to be there. That was weird. Oh yeah, look, data SON, like that's just wrong. That's wrong. So what's going on there? But it comes good when I go out like that. So okay, maybe some more investigation required, but yeah, it does work though. I didn't have the Logic probes last time, but John South at Emona's kindly sent me the Rigol probes for this thing. What they PLA 216 or something they're called. 399 Yankee bucks for the probes, and that's pretty darn pricey. But hey, let's take a look at it and some other aspects. This won't be a full review. I've actually got to send this back in a couple of hours, so actually send the scope back. So I won't have it any longer, unfortunately. It has to be sent to Silicon Chip because they want to review it apparently. So anyway, or it's going off somewhere else. They might have another unit for them. Anyway, yeah, these new Rigol probes, they seem quite nice. They'd actually want to be, of course, for 400 Yankee bucks. But anyway, unfortunately, I cannot open them. They're like, you know, welded shut or whatever. I'd have to get the Dremel to that and damage them, and I'd have to give them back. So unfortunately, I can't do a thing. Anyway, one of the first interesting things is that this is the one that goes into the scope, and you can see that they're not the same pin count. So they've got their standard 0.1 inch header, of course, so you could in theory make your own probes up. I don't think there's going to be much else in there, apart from, like, I don't think there's any differential drivers or anything like that, but don't quote me on that. I think it's just these are a nominal 100k. You can see it there, a nominal input impedance of 100k with 8 puff there, 8 picofarads. So yeah, a pretty standard Logic Analsyer probe. So in theory, you could make your own. So they've probably just got the 100k resistors in there. And if you actually plug the thing in, it does actually auto detect, and it connected Logic Analsyer probe, and it enables your Logic Analsyer. And when you get the Logic Analsyer up, you get various options. Let's have a look. You can actually select a waveform, no big deal. You can turn various groups off and on, but then you can actually go in and turn individual traces off and on. So I've only got the first 4 channels turned on for my experiments here. You've got a position control, which you can then, invalid configuration. So it looks like you can only move them in groups, I believe. So you can't move individual waveforms. So I've got some waveform data there. You can see, I personally think they're very close together. Sort of, you know, I'd like to see a larger differentiation than that. And I've got it set to the large size, as you'll see. So, but you can group, you can have up to 4 different groups on this thing. Let's have a look. Sorry about the reflection on the screen and everything else. It's not good for videoing, and it's not the best screen to look at either. So yeah. Anyway, we've got large, medium, small is really small. But I guess if you're trying to cram everything on the screen, like, you know, 4 analog waveforms and you've got a bunch of digitals, then, you know, you might want to use small, medium, and large. Unfortunately, the gap between the waveforms does not change. And as I said, I don't think there's a way to change that, which is kind of annoying. You can actually label them, which is quite nice. It looks like you've got a library of, you know, all your, all your basic stuff and things like that. So you don't have to type them in. But because this is a touch screen, we can label D0 EEVblog. There we go. How do we accept? Okay, the OK is not highlighted. What? Yeah, okay. What? How? I want to call it EEVblog. Why doesn't it let me? What's going on? What? That's ridiculous. I think you might have to actually turn the labels on first, which is pretty dumb. So, EEVblog. No, still can't do it. Okay, I selected it from the library address down here. I think I had to, did I have it selected there before? No, it's still not going to let me, like, it looks like you've got to erase that first, and then EEVblog, and then you've got to click on that, and now we've got EEVblog. Okay, whatever, I got it. Okay, what else can we do in here? We can groups, and we can change our color of our high, low, and edge as well. So if you want, what? Is that it? That's that can't be the selection. I thought you'd be able to change it from a palette. Nope. Unbelievable. What? They're the selections. Why even bother having that at all if that's your selection? That's just crazy. You may as well not even have that function. Unbelievable. And then you can set up your groups in there, but that's about it for the, yep, that's it for the Logic Analyzer functionality. All right, I'm actually generating a pattern here, so we can actually run this. I'm generating a 1 megahertz counting pattern, and I've noticed a few things already, a few issues. Let's check it out. So the first one is we'll single shot capture that, and we'll zoom in. Here's the weird thing. Right, it's so hard to see this on the camcorder screen. The trigger point is here. It's right on D0 there, or the EEVblog channel. I don't know why they still call it. Well, okay, you can argue that, you know, D0, you could still do that. Can we move that channel, by the way? We can select it, but we can't move channels. That's a bit disappointing. You know, what's the point of having a touch screen if you can't do that? You can't unselect it either by double clicking. Anyway, look, my waveform is right in the middle. Sorry if you can't see that. I have a hard time seeing that with my eyes too when it's red and highlighted. Anyway, the trigger point, I am actually triggering off, if we go into the trigger menu here, I'm actually triggering off edge triggering D0. Okay, it doesn't put up the label EEVblog, by the way. It just puts D0. So why, like, labeling's just an on-screen thing. It'd be nice, you know, I want to, when I go trigger, I want to be able to select, oh, I want the clock line, or I want something else. You know, I want my labels to show up there. So, like, well, it's almost why even bother labeling them. I know for printouts and screen captures and stuff. Anyway, I've got, right, let's go rising edge like that. Anyway, it was set up to either. So let's single shot capture that. Look, every time I capture that, D0, there's my trigger point. It is not there. It is not there. It is not triggering. And now, look, it decided to there, but when I do, look, I'll take out my time base a bit further, right? That looks like it's triggered. But when I go in, look, it shifted the waveform. What? It shifted it. My trigger point has not changed. Yet somehow, this waveform, somehow this display, the display algorithm or whatever, has decided that it's going to put it in the middle. What on earth is going on there? That's just crazy. So, like, it looks like it's above a certain time base, it looks okay. But when I get down below, like that, oops, jump back, now it's not. Like, no. There's something wrong there. I want my trigger point to be exactly where I tell it. So I've changed my trigger to D3 up here, channel 3. It's doing exactly the same thing. Look at that. It just does not trigger at the correct point. It's just inexcusable. Anyway, if I keep single shot capturing that, it seems to be consistent. So that's good. You'd expect to be consistent. I'm putting in a consistent counting 4-bit counter. Now, if I actually go up to a 10 megahertz counter, we start to see a few issues here. Look at this. That's a problem. We got some extra pulses there. By the way, I'm generating this with and probing with the just the Roden Schwartz to generate a pattern signal on there, and I'm using the supplied probes. By the way, you get. With them, you get a whole bunch of ground leads like that with little ground flags on them. You get 2 packets of easy hooks, which are, you know, your regular easy hooks. They're fine and dandy. And all your little cables, which are very thin and nice. They feel very nice. I like the outer coating on that. It's not just like it feels like a more like a woven fabric kind of outer, you know, thing, if you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, they come with these little molded flags. Obviously, there's no point putting them on here like this. Obviously, they're designed to go on this end, and You know, you stick them in there like that, and a little identifiers, so they're kind of nice. You know, I don't mind that at all. So that's pretty good, but, you know, it'd want to be decent for your 400 Yankee bucks anyway. And that's one of the things, like you pay $400 US for the probes, you can buy a very nice USB Logic Analyzer for 400 bucks, you know, a complete standalone system with much more comprehensive, you know, software and everything else, and more, like, better capabilities and stuff. So, yeah, you know, you'd really want the mixed signal capability. Granted, like, nothing beats a mixed signal scope. By mixed signal, I mean when you've got Logic Analyzer and all of your analog stuff, especially 4-channel like this, all intermixed and triggered together. That's very nice. For many applications, that is like a seriously powerful tool, except when it doesn't trigger on the correct location. Unbelievable. Anyway, yeah, mixed signal scopes I've done. Have I done a video on the advantages of mixed signal scopes? I think I have. I'll have to link it in at the end. Anyway, look at these little glitches on here. This isn't nice. And I've set up my threshold, by the way. Let's set up the threshold here. You can do group thresholds. This is done inside the scope. The threshold would not be done inside the probe. I'm absolutely sure of that. So I've got it set to like regular CMOS, like, you know, 3.3, which is a 1.5 volt, 1.65 volt threshold. You know, I could change it down to maybe, you know, let's change it down to 900 millivolts. See if that makes a difference. A little bit, but look at this. We're getting glitches right in the middle of that. Wow, that's not terrific, is it? That's terrible, Muriel. Whoa, that moved. Why did that not expand? Look, there's something wrong with this scope. I swear. Like, I'm moving the position here like this. I want to zoom in on that, right? When you zoom in, you expect the window to expand around the center point. And it is not doing that. Look, it's just vanished. What on earth is going on there? Look, when you move in like that, but when you move out past a certain threshold, it's gone. It's gone. Is that the same point? I can't tell because it's all like just similar sequential. No, look, there's that. It's almost as if it's vanished. Look, I'm seeing stuff there. That's got to be the same point, surely. And there's no data showing in there. Is that some software artifact? Is that some sort of bug? Oh, no, it's back. Look, it's back. So at this time-based setting, it's there. That time-based setting, it's not there. Go in again, it's there, but it's not, it hasn't shifted properly. Like I'm putting that in the center. Okay, so it should expand around that, and it's moved it again. There's something seriously wrong with this. Anyway, I'm not sure why I'm getting those pulses. You know, granted, okay, we're using fairly long probes here, but, you know, they're the supplied probes. They are, you know, fairly long, but they're standard for, like, logic analyzers and stuff, and it's not particularly quick. Okay, change it back to 1 megahertz, and it's not like it changes the frequency, changes the edge rate. Oh, look, see, even at 1 megahertz, that's 1 megahertz. We're getting these runty pulses in here. Pinch and zoom to expand. That even doesn't seem to work reliably. Pinch and zoom. Ugh. Right, so what I'm going to do is try my Keysight 3000 scope over here, and with the Keysight's Logic probes, which are these little jobbies here, very similar length probes and everything else, exactly the same test point, so I've got both hooked on there, and let's see if we get these little runt pulses. Again, we're at 1 megahertz, we're only at 1 megahertz frequency, and let's go over here to the Keysight. And here we go. Let's single shot capture that. You can see that there's absolutely no issues there whatsoever. So I'll set the thresholds up the same. So I've got that set to standard 1.4 volts TTL. I'll do the same on the Rigol. There we go, the same 1.4 volts there. And let's see if we get our spurious data. It hasn't come back. but I have seen it at 1.4 volts before on 1 megahertz. Let's go to 10 megahertz. Okay, seems to have come good. I'm not seeing that anymore. Is that because of the extra probing on there? But we are seeing, look, these little pulses here. And once again, if we go in there and try and expand that, whereas if we do the exact same thing over here on the Keysight, I'm triggering off channel 3 up here, D3, and like it expands exactly how you'd expect it to expand. No problems whatsoever. And there's no multiple pulses on there at all. I'm just not seeing it. We're probing the exact same point, and the Rigol shows it was same threshold level. The Rigol's showing multiple pulses on the edge. So there's some sort of signal fidelity thing wrong with the Rigol. The probe, like the actual probes themselves, the input of the input circuitry of the Rigol, I don't know what's going on, but something's giving multiple pulses there, which are definitely not there, and I'm just not seeing that. Let's go up all the way with LBJ up to maximum 50 megahertz now. There we go. That's 50 megahertz. Count rate. No problems, no multiple pulses, no nothing. There's a bit of, timing issue between channels, which you'd expect. A little bit of variation there. Let's go over to the Rigol. Exact same signal. Multiple pulses. Look at that. Multiple pulses on 2 different channels. The same threshold voltage. 1.4 volts. At least it's consistent. It does seem consistent. Wow. But I wouldn't trust this thing at all. That's just, okay, if you see multiple pulses, that's fine. It could be a probing and all sorts of stuff like that. But 2 identical logic analyzers with the same threshold and the same probe length and the same probing technique, one showing multiple pulses, the other isn't. Yeah, something's up. And again, and watch this David Copperfield magic. We've got pulses there, expand the time base, pulses are still there, pulses are gone over here. That is just incredible. Look, here, like they're gone at this time base, they're still here. They're still here, but it's shifted. Okay, so here and here on the rising edge. Now what? The falling edge? Oh, no, it's shifted again. What? Because the waveform shifted. I give up. For reference, hardware version 1.00.000. That's kind of disturbing. Didn't the teardown show a bigger number than that? Reference my video. I think you'll find it might. Anyway, firmware version 1.01.02.03. I have an update. Let's update the firmware. See if it makes a difference. Let's just check out the firmware update. It's reading the disk. So everything's hunky-dory. Let's go into utility. Where is it? System, more. Unlock quick setting. No. About. How do I update? Bueller. How do I update the firmware? Oh, by the way, I also got the 200 meg option install. Here we go. Invalid license. What? Anyway. Oh, retry left. 7 what? 7 retries before it, locks me out? It's going to... Invalid license, it's going to lock me out. So there you go. Is that some sort of protection, hacking protection thing to... You've only got so many shots at installing a license? I gave them my serial number, and they gave me a license file back, and it was supposed to enable the 200 meg option. But anyway... so yeah, the 200 meg points, which for some reason isn't installed. Why you'd bother? Like, it's a 100 meg point scope. Why? Like, just give people the full 200 meg instead of the 100 meg. It's ridiculous. Anyway, Okay, so I'm going to assume that the way you load the firmware is to simply go into the storage, load setup, disk. Here we go. Drive D. Aha! License gel, there we go. So let's install that. That would, no. Rename, delete, new folder. No. No. Well, how do you install the new firmware? Oh, sadly, John just came to pick up the Rigol 5000, so that's the end of that. I will eventually get it back, I think, but yeah, it's got to go to Silicon Chip, plus some other people want it. I think it might still be the only one in the country, is it? Anyway, I thought I'd try out the 7000 series Rigol, which I've still got, and I've got the Logic probes for it. They are nicer. It is a different interface. It's got that PCI interface on it. It is much nicer. It does. These probes instill a lot more confidence in me. So it's got these extenders, and I assume that they just feed straight through. What these are good for is if you want to keep your probes permanently attached to your circuit and all that sort of stuff, you know, without having to, because it takes a lot of time to, you know, probe like 16 channels and set it all up and all that sort of jazz. So you can leave it attached to this, and then you can just disconnect this part of it and take your scope, or, you know, or take your lead or go somewhere else. So I guess that's kind of handy. Anyway, so I'm probing, doing exactly the same thing, probing these, the wires that you actually, or the leads you actually get with the 7000. They just, they feel better than the 5000, so it instills more confidence in you. Anyway, I'm generating the 50 megahertz, the same 50 megahertz counting signal, and this one works a treat. Here we go. Single shot capture, run, and this one is just fine and dandy. And look, when you expand the time base, I'm triggering off D3 there. When you expand the time base, it works exactly as you expect. It's the same as what we see on the Keysight one. There's a little bit of jitter there. That's normal at 50 megahertz. That's probably some sample, just some timing jitter, whether or not it's coming from the Roden-Schwarz generator or whether or not it's like a sample. It's jumping in quantized steps there. So I'd like to think that that's just, you know, asynchronous, because we're in timing mode. We're not in state analysis mode. State would be different if we were synchronizing something to an external clock. We're not. We're in timing analysis mode. So that is a good example, actually, of the single sample rate, you know, inherent jitter you could potentially get in a asynchronous timing logic. By timing, I mean timing analysis of a logic analyzer. I'm sure I've done a video on that somewhere. Anyway, it works fine. It zooms in. There's no extra glitches. I've got the thresholds set to the same 1.4 volts. Everything's hunky-dory, so there you go. The Rigol 7000 works fine. There's something up with the Rigol 5000, but I do have an early, possibly pre-production unit and pre-production software. Still couldn't figure out how to do that firmware upgrade. John didn't know offhand, so yeah. And I think he may have generated that license file incorrectly. So anyway, there you go. Yeah. Rigol 5000 has issues. I'm sure they'll, you know, eventually sort them out. But that Logic Analyzer one, that was, yeah, it's really kind of nasty. So Rigol need to look into that one. Anyway, if you've got one of those Rigol 5000s and you can duplicate that, please let us know down below. Catch you next time.